All right, boys, if you've been waiting for Gray Zone Warfare to finally start feeling like a complete game instead of a really ambitious early access sandbox, the next update might be the one that starts pushing it in that direction. Update 0.4, called Spearhead, is bringing a massive amount of new content across the entire game. I'm talking 25 plus new locations on the map, 7 enemy factions with bosses, 8 new weapons, hundreds of new weapon parts and gear items, and a completely reworked loot system. And honestly, this might be the first update that really starts making Lemang feel like an actual living world instead of just a map that you run through to complete tasks. So in this video, I want to break down everything coming in the 0.4 update. And if you guys enjoy that, leave a like on the video, subscribe for everything Gray Zone Warfare. My name is Big Fry. Let's get into it. The first big change is to the world itself. The island of Lemang has been heavily rebuilt and expanded with more variety across the environments. The devs have added over 25 new locations across the map, ranging from smaller points of interest to larger areas designed to support more combat encounters as well as exploration. On top of that, the map is getting a new biome type, including things like burned forests, bamboo forests, shot-out war zones, and swamps. So this should break up the jungle a lot more and make areas feel visually distinct instead of just feeling like one giant green maze. Other environmental improvements include new jungle paths for navigation, reworked river areas, redesigned forward operating bases, and buildings that now appear in different states like opened, closed, or abandoned. They've also added new moon phases, which should make nighttime operations feel a little bit more dynamic. One of the big focuses in the devlog from March 4th was movement and animation improvements. So the devs say they've reworked core movement to feel more fluid and more weight-based, which should make the player movement feel less stiff overall. One of the big changes here is that we now have 2 different sprint systems. So you have a tactical sprint designed for longer distance travel, and then you have that burst sprint, which is a short, fast sprint that drains stamina quickly. So you now have a choice between efficient movement or a quick burst of speed during combat situations. Other movement improvements include reworking vaulting, jumping, and falling, and improving weapon sway based on attachments. They also added better hit reactions for enemies, which should make firefights a lot easier to read, and in my opinion, it just looks really, really good. Now there's 2 types of reactions when enemies are shot: short reactions for lighter caliber hits, longer reactions for serious injuries like bone or organ damage. And if an enemy's leg is broken, they'll now start limping, giving players clearer visual feedback about what kind of damage they've done to these NPCs. Another major focus of the last devlog was sound design, which the devs say has been heavily upgraded to match the game's visuals. The soundscape is being expanded to better communicate what's happening to both the player and the environment. Players will now hear clearer audio cues tied to their conditions, including exhaustion, injury, pain, or the use of medical equipment. So instead of relying purely on UI, you can now hear when your character is actually in trouble. The environment audio is now becoming more reactive. Gunfire can now trigger wildlife reactions, which should make the world feel more alive. I'm very curious if we're going to see the end of just crickets in your ear no matter where you are on the map. I really hope so. Interactive items like radios will now also emit localized sound cues, which I think is pretty cool. Weapon audio is also getting a sound overhaul, deafening effects from close-range gunfire, new weapon handling sounds, so the clicks and clanks, the foley of the weapons. You have improved distant gunshots, better bullet impacts and ricochet sounds, as well as sonic cracks from rounds passing nearby. Enemy NPCs and bosses are also getting new voice lines. We're going to talk about these NPCs and bosses in just a little bit. The health system in the game is also getting a significant overhaul, so the goal here is higher combat lethality while making damage easier to understand. The devs say players should now have clearer feedback when you're injured, helping you make faster decisions about how to treat wounds. Changes include a rebalanced health system, rebalanced medical items, new medical items, and improved visual and audio feedback when you're injured. There's also a lot of quality of life improvements on the interface and controls, so you have better squad awareness. Now, faction members will appear on your compass, making it easier to track teammates. Thank God this was a suggestion I made over a year ago, and we're finally here. Clearer health status, so you have a health indicator that now shows how severe your wounds actually are, and you have better item information, including durability, compatibility, and armor levels. It's displayed right up front. Next up is a major overhaul to the enemy NPCs, and this is really cool. This is probably the most exciting thing, at least for me. Instead of just generic enemies scattered around the map like I've been complaining about since launch, AI has now been reorganized into 7 distinct factions. So each faction has its own appearance, their own gear, their own weapons, as well as their own loot tables. So when you move into a new area, you're going to be able to quickly identify who it is you're fighting and the equipment that they might be carrying. I'm really waiting for the moment where I don't just loot a can of pop and an AK off of an AI. I need something more. Each faction will also have its own boss character, complete with unique voice lines and unique gear variants. So this should add a lot more personality to encounters and give players specific targets to hunt down in the game. And they also reworked player characters a bit with 16 upgraded PMC head models to give players more visual variety, and vendors have been completely remodeled, which should hopefully make the hub areas feel a little more polished, a little more upgraded, so that's pretty cool. The next category is where I think things are going to get pretty wild. This is probably where you guys are going to be most excited. So Update 0.4 is adding over 380 new weapon parts to the game. This includes new attachments, color variants, and components for all of the new weapons. Speaking of which, the update also is introducing 8 new weapons. On top of that, the bosses will now carry 12 unique engraved weapon variants, which is really, really cool, which should give players some cool trophy weapons to hunt down. There's also a big expansion of the optics in the game, new red dots, new scopes, and new magnifiers, including optics like the Trigicon MRO, the ATAC-R, the Razor 1-10, as well as a bunch of EOTech magnifiers. And for players who like scouting or recon gameplay, this update is also bringing in binoculars, including one with a rangefinder. Weapons aren't the only thing getting expanded in 0.4. This update adds over 150 new gear pieces, including 8 new helmets, 3 new plate carriers, 4 different chest rigs, 3 backpacks, new night vision devices, and multiple new headsets. Players will also be able to earn morale patches by ranking up, attending events, or through Twitch drops. By the way, I am going to be streaming this update when it launches, hopefully later this month. So if you like flexing on other players with cosmetic stuff, there's going to be more and more of that as these updates roll through, which is pretty cool. Beyond just adding content, the devs have also made major mechanical improvements to weapons and ballistics. So one of the coolest additions is manual bolting, meaning bolt action rifles now require you to actually cycle the bolt manually between shots. Weapons now also have weight-based handling, which affects things like ADS speed, weapon sway, movement acceleration, handling inertia. Ballistics have been reworked to better balance realism with gameplay. And a few other changes to note here. Ammunition now impacts weapon durability. Some ammo types will now wear out your weapons a little bit faster. Helmets have been rebalanced based on velocity and caliber. And grenades have also been rebalanced to behave more realistically. And weapon durability overall has been adjusted so that your best guns now degrade a little bit faster, encouraging players to save top-tier weapons for higher risk areas. Speaking of those higher risk areas, the final major change in this update is the loot system, which is getting a complete overhaul finally. The number of distinct loot items in the game has more than doubled, with over 123 new items added. This includes things like medical supplies, food, cases, as well as valuables, but the biggest addition to this might be the intel system. The devs have added 351 environmental intel items, letters, magazines, and posters. These are all helping to tell the story of Lemang and its factions, and 68 of these intel items can actually be looted and brought back to base. Loot distribution has also been redesigned so that items make sense based on where you find them. For example, medical gear is more likely to spawn in infirmaries. Certain factions will now carry specific equipment, and high-value areas will now have significantly better loot. They've also added junk items and new container types, which should make looting feel a little more natural. Finally, All of those soda cans that we've been looting for the last 2 years now provide buffs. So something like a coffee will actually increase stamina recovery, giving players another layer to that survival mechanic. Overall, Update 0.4 is the biggest content update Gray Zone Warfare has had since launch. It's not just adding guns, it's expanding the world, AI, loot, gear, and core systems all at once. If this update lands well, it could go a long way towards making the island feel like a fully realized tactical sandbox instead of just like a really promising foundation, which is where I've felt Gray Zone has been sitting for the last few years. But as always with early access, the real question isn't what's in the patch notes, it's how well all of this actually works and comes together once players can get their hands on it. And as far as we know, the update is going to be dropping later this month. I haven't covered the last devlog. I've been waiting for a little bit more information. They hit us with all of this information just yesterday, and I was like, man, I have to talk about this. There's so much shit. And for the first time in a long time, I'm actually excited to get back into Gray Zone Warfare and take a look at what this update has in store. So if you guys aren't following me on Twitch, make sure you do so. We're going to be streaming this as soon as this update goes live. I'm going to be live over there. And from what I can tell, they're going to be doing Twitch drops as well. So if you guys want to get some stuff for Gray Zone Warfare, make sure you stay connected, get over to the live stream. And if you guys have Amazon Prime, you can actually subscribe to my Twitch channel for free every 30 days. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and you can watch completely ad-free. Let me know what you guys think of 0.4. Is this an update that excites you? I'll be honest, it wasn't really exciting until I read the patch notes that they gave us this morning while I'm recording this video, and I went, holy shit. This actually might be the one that's going to make me want to play this game long term. Again, we'll have to see when it launches, but I'm actually getting a little bit excited. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts while you're down there. Leave a like on the video. Subscribe for everything Gray Zone Warfare. Head over to patreon.com/BigFry. You can support the channel over there on a monthly basis. And make sure to use code BigFry at gamersubs.gg if you want 10% off your entire order. It's a sugar-free alternative to energy drinks, sodas, and all of the bullshit. Grab a tub, grab a shaker, and use code BigFry. You can support the channel and get yourself an awesome product. My name is BigFry. As always, shout out to the Fry Nation, and I'll see you on the next one.